lots of great spring and summer music events that I'd like to bring to you and share with you. So I'll get to that in just a bit. As a simple reminder to keep things easier for you, I'm going to be breaking these bi-monthly episodes up into music or theater instead of combining everything. That way it'll make it a little easier for you to choose the type of content that you like to watch. It's my way of helping you stay in the loop of what's happening in and around Manhattan and the industry on a whole. Now, first up, new cultural experiences. During the month of May, I had the opportunity to experience some amazing new and old first for me that I'm thrilled to share with you. Now, if you love poetry, as I do, Pablo Neruda is one of my favorite poets. So I was invited recently to a workshop production called Voice of Fire Pocket Opera Cabaret at the Lower Manhattan's Flamboyant Theater. It's an amazing venue, a historic landmark. It's a great venue for this type of experimental work. What they did is they had a pre-show wine tasting, which really helped to settle the audience and get us in the right mood, as you'd imagine. I had a great time. Ray Ludke is the composer with text by Neruda and his original work as well. It's a beautiful performance experience. I won't say play because it's more than just a play. In addition to Neruda's words, there's also movement interwoven. They've started a Kickstarter campaign called My Life with Pablo Neruda. So this is a piece that I'm happy to endorse, and I would really recommend if you're going to sponsor something, this is one you should keep on your short list. Another new experience, Sounds of the Bosphorus. Now this was a double first for me. I know it's a double entendre, but it's true. I never had the opportunity to attend a performance at Symphony Space. Now, if you're not in Manhattan, you may not be familiar, but if you are, of course, it's a premier performance space on Manhattan's Upper West Side. They are trying to establish themselves as a nationally and internationally recognized cultural leader. And I would say they're well on their way. They do some challenging work, and it's a very in-demand performance space. Now, Sounds of the Bosphorus was presented by the Turkish Music Institute in collaboration with Symphony Space. Featured artists were Ross Daly on the Taru and Lira, Ahmet Erdoğanlar on the vocals and percussion, Omer Erdoğanlar on the ney, and Yurkul Tokan on the oud. A little instrument clarification. If you're not familiar with these instruments, don't fret, neither was I. In fact, I'm not very knowledgeable of Turkish culture in general, so I saw this as an opportunity to experience their culture firsthand. And what better way to learn of another culture's history, of course, than through word or spoken music. Now, I'm going to have a slight Turkish clip of Istanbul for you right here. Would I leave you hanging? It was really great to hear this type of music and see it performed on those wooden wind instruments and the stringed instruments by craftsmen who have dedicated their lives and their careers to that performance. Now, folk music, or türkü, generally deals with subjects surrounding daily life in less grandiose terms, and the love and emotion usually combined in the traditional counterpart of Ottoman court music. Now, Turkish folk music combines the distinct cultural values of all civilizations that have lived in Anatolia and the past territories of Europe and Asia. Its unique culture includes regional differences under one umbrella. It was the most popular music during the Ottoman Empire era. Now, after the founding of the Turkish Empire, Ataturk made a wide-scale classification and archiving of samples of Turkish folk music from Anatolia, which was launched in 1924 through 1953 to compile over 10,000 samples of folk songs. In the 60s, Turkish folk music met with radio and folk music like Asik Vaysul, Neset Ertuğ, and Bediye Ataturk, becoming the most popular musicians of that time. And in the 70s and 80s, with the rising popularity of arabesque and Turkish light western, Turkish folk music has lost its old prestige. But singers like Belkıs Akali and İzzet Adman and Selda Bergan, and forgive the pronunciations, and Arif Saj became successful, created successful hit songs that were popular at the time. Now, for a little instrument clarification, the taru is a string instrument played with a bow. It is an invention of Australian luthier Peter Biffen. The taru's design uses a unique acoustic system where the string vibrations are transferred to a featherweight cone through the body of the instrument. The lira is a ceremonial instrument with origins in Sumer, ancient civilizations, and historical region in southern Mesopotamia or modern Iraq. The ney instrument is an inblown flute originating from the figures of prominently in Middle Eastern music, and some of these musical instruments, such as it was the only wind instrument used. The ney was played from 4500 to 5000 and one of the oldest instruments still used today. Now, the Turkish and Arab neys, the differences are the one has 7 holes in the front and 1 thumb hole in the back. The oud is a pear-shaped stringed instrument commonly used in Arab, Hebrew, Jewish, Greek, Turkish, Byzantine, North Africa, the Shabi, classical, and the Andalusian, Somali, as well as Middle Eastern music. The oud is similar to that of the lute. Now, the modern oud and the European oud both descend from common ancestry via diverging paths. The oud is readily distinguishable by its its smaller neck and lack of frets. It is similar to the guitar. Now, the oud, the plectrum is used to play the oud with an instrument called the risha. Traditionally, the risha were made of eagle feathers, tortoise shells, and things of that type. Another acoustic evening was spent with Belgian guitarist Raphael Smits. Now, I went to 92nd Street Y recently for an acoustic guitar performance with the master guitarist performing, and she was playing her famous 8-string guitar. Now, the performance included numbers by Anton Diabello's trio in F major, opus 62. In addition to Federico Moreno's Tamba's Estampa, Tom Dunn's 8 Memories in Watercolor, as well as Roderico Sierra's sonata as a New York premiere, Compasión, Esprecioso, and Casi Religioso. In addition, there was also Sergio Assad's The Enchanted Island, another New York premiere, as well as Astor Piazzolla's La Evasión, Fuga y Misterio, and Riverado. It was quite an evening. Now, some notes on the artist. Ms. Smits is a master craftsman. She's quite accomplished and teaches master classes in guitar as well as chamber music. She also holds a chair at the Lemons Institute in Leuven, Belgium. In addition, she's very passionate and expressive when discussing her art form. In addition to playing the 8-string guitar, she also plays the harp very beautifully. Now, her influences come from her singing in the choir and the opera when she was younger, and in Amsterdam. She began her studies at the Royal Conservatories of Antwerp and Brussels. She went on to Spain to study with Jose Tomas, who was the assistant to Andre Segovia, which is where she was introduced to the 8-string guitar. She's received numerous awards. In fact, in 1986, Ms. Smits became the first woman to win the first prize of the 20th Certamen International de Guitarra Francisco Torraga, a prominent international guitar competition held in Benicassim, Spain. She has since gone on to win several other prizes and perform worldwide. As for recordings, since 1977, she's made 17 recordings that reflect her wide range of musical interest, with her most recent being the 8-string Bach, featuring her own arrangement of Partita No. 2 for solo violin. Now, her inspiration comes from Jos van Immersel, the renowned Flemish harpsichordist, pianist, and conductor. Now, a little more classical. The New York Philharmonic was at Avery Fisher Hall earlier this spring. In March, the Philharmonic dedicated the season to the Bach Variations, a festival. The evening that I attended, conductor Masaki Suzuki was at the helm. He started with Bach's motet, Sing Unto the Lord a New Song, then followed with Mendelssohn's Magnificat in D major, as well as Christus, opus 97. Now, a little gospel fare at Carnegie Hall. This being the 30th anniversary season of Mid-America Productions, with this the 517th performance at Carnegie Hall. A prelude concert with Fayetteville State University's concert choir was led by conductor Denise Murchison Payton's selection. She started with Brahms' How Lonely Is Thy Dwelling Place, from a German Requiem, opus 45. She followed with Hall Johnson's I'll Never Turn Back No More, as well as Adolphus Hailstork's Shout for Joy. Talk about setting the tone for a soulful evening. They absolutely did. Now, a little more. If you want something mainstream, how about Brooklyn Bowl? If you've never been, the place was absolutely packed for a Wednesday night. It's a whole lot larger on the inside than it is on the outside, like many clubs and bars in Manhattan. But of course, this is in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, just a short train ride outside of Manhattan. The place has 2 stories. It has a full-sized live performance stage, as well as a fully functioning full-size bowling alley, only in New York. The owner, Peter Shapiro, is a New York City promoter, and here in New York City, he is also the owner of the, in addition to Brooklyn Bowl, he also owns the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York, which he, by the way, renovated and reopened as a concert hall when it was being used for a number of years as a catering hall. So, good job, Peter. If you come into town, you want something different, ask about Brooklyn Bowl. Now, I attended back in March and caught a performance by Preservation Hall. Now, if you're a lover of traditional New Orleans jazz, Preservation Hall is someone you want to look for. They were named after, Preservation Hall was started in 1961 to preserve, perpetuate, and protect one of America's truest art forms, of course, New Orleans jazz. So there's the band. That's where they originated. And it originally operated as a music venue, a touring band, a record label, and a non-profit organization. Preservation Hall continues their mission today as a cornerstone of New Orleans music and culture. So there's someone you might want to check out. Do a Google search. You'd be impressed if you're going down from Mardi Gras or down Southern Way. And finally, another first for me. I know, lots of firsts this season. Tribeca Performing Arts Center. I know, all this time in New York, never had occasion. Talk about a beautiful space and a great place to go for live performance or to watch a film. The evening was Monk in Motion, the next phase of jazz. The evening started with a prelude of Monk's career on the big screen. We watched archival footage of him performing with various bands throughout his career. And it was a real treat because Monk is one of my favorite all-time jazz players. Now, awards to the band. The performance is a partnership between BMCC, TPAC, and the Thelonious Monk Institute, presenting top 3 winners from the annual Thelonious Monk International Jazz Competition. The drummers competed last September at the Kennedy Center. Now, first prize winner Jameson Ross happens to be from the hometown. That's right. He currently resides in New Orleans, Louisiana, where he's pursuing his master's in music of jazz. He already has a recording contract established with Concord Jazz and will be releasing his debut album in January of 2014. Someone to look for. Now, some of his inspirations are Eddie Harris, Muddy Waters, Charlie Mingus, one of my all-time favorites, John Coltrane, of course, Smokey Johnson, James Black, Shannon Powell, Marcus Roberts, to name a few. Yeah, we know who you're talking about, Jameson. And that about does it for this installment of Entertainment Music. How's that for the big bad apple and what's happening? Now, also, if you missed the last episode of my weekly live on-air podcast, Being Social, episode number 7, America's Role in Foreign Policy Now, you can listen or watch by going to acclaimedtheatricals.com as well as GregoryMikell.com or YouTube and Vimeo. Simply search for podcast Being Social, where you can check it out absolutely free. And to see the full Season 1 program list, you can visit IMDb and look for the project as well as Acclaim Theatricals website. Look for the orange logo with the E on it for Eventbrite. Clicking on that will take you to our reservations page where you'll see the complete list of programming where you're sure to see something of interest. This is Gregory Mikell for On the Town, episode 10. Check us out for our next issue by subscribing to our feeds for music or theater. Thank you much. Have a good night.